Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you from a tavern hearth with my feet up, waiting for the blacksmith to finish my sword. I am your host, Conor. I got distracted there for a second. I'm your host, Conor O'Brien, and joining me as always is my co-host, Mr. Martin O'Dwyer.
Slightly less distracted. How's it going, Conor? I'm doing good.
Sorry, my brain froze up for a second there and was like, you forgot how to use your mouth? So
For anyone on YouTube, if you've ever wanted to see a human buffer, that's what just happened to Conor.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I full on saw the little wheel spinning in your eyes. Like.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Twitching just like... Now that my new update has finished, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a long week at work, so but it's been a good week for D&D. So I'm tired, but I'm happy. So that's good. Been doing some interesting stuff in my campaign. We played our first game of our campaign back after a little bit of a break there, and kind of did what I did on my summer vacation kind of style.
Essentially,
episode,
yeah.
Which actually was a lot of fun and really interesting.
Yes, and that's actually what we're here to talk to, and we can jump into that in a minute, but we're actually here to talk about what you guys did on your downtime vacation. And we're talking about downtime today, as you can probably tell from the title of the video. What it is, how to best use it, what it can be used for, and really this is a player-focused, but also DM, I guess, but player-focused episode of the podcast. Tell me, what's been happening in your D&D game at the moment, just to catch up on that.
So I haven't had some downtime recently, but just in general, the guys are now progressing through my Wildfire Druid's backstory arc pretty rapidly. The last session I had with them, they're basically on this plotline where they have to take down these there's these giant rune stones that I've called elemental anchors that are being used to anchor. I think I said that on the 5th podcast ago, but they're being used to anchor.
I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, they're being used to anchor this giant storm over my Wildfire Druid's home. His name is Mandry rather. And so they've been going around journeying through the mountains. They found one by accident, and then the druid uses locate objects, searches for objects of the same type, and discovers that there's 3 more. So they've each week there, and they basically have been going to a location, almost like how like the first Harry Potter movie, where it's there's the key chamber and the chessboard chamber and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's this will come out after we've done it. So yeah, there's 4 elemental anchors. One, the first one they found was a storm one. The next one they destroyed was an air one. The third one and most recent one they've destroyed is the earth anchor. So the storm anchor to channel the storm in that area, the air anchor to prevent it from being blown away by winds, the earth anchor to anchor to the bones of the mountains here, and then the last one is a fire anchor to prevent it was already going out, but to prevent the fire geyser that exists in that area from bursting upwards and kind of messing with the storm clouds as well. It's all part of.
I like how you had to stop and think for a second. Am I giving spoilers to my players here? Because I would have had to cut all that if you were.
Yeah, no, I think by the time this goes out, they're literally about to go after the last one now. They ended the session after fighting in a gatehouse before the new. So giants have taken over this area, and they built a big gatehouse and a big iron and razor wire fence around the thing, and they seem to be doing something down in the hole that none of the guys are aware of yet.
Right.
So, but they haven't found the boss, the leader of the boss. He's like a fire giant. His name is Bryn and the Hammer, and he's so they haven't seen him yet. So they're guessing he's down in the hole because a giant-sized docking ring has been smashed into the rim of the big pit, and a giant-sized rope has been attached to it that leads down into the darkness. So that's where they kind of are at the moment. But yeah, you
talk about a giant pit. I for some reason my mind immediately went to that scene in Wild Wild West with the giant spider coming up out of the thing.
I'm not that cruel. I don't think I've actually tried. No, I have thrown giant spiders at him. Yeah, no, I have. None of them are afraid of spiders though, so it's fine.
I wish there were bigger spiders in 5e.
Ooh.
The typical giant spiders, wolf spiders, phase spiders. I think phase are the highest CR, and they only go up to CR 3.
It'd be cool to have something I suppose the is it a star spawn horror or crawling horror?
Oh, is this one from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount?
I think so. It might be the star spawn emissary I'm thinking of. But there's some big creepy insectoid ones, yeah. But there's not a giant big spider. I would love a Shelob in a 5e.
Essentially, something that's maybe a CR 10 or something beefy like that.
That would be fun.
you could put up against a 5th or 6th level party, and it would be a serious challenge. Whereas, don't get me wrong, picking a giant spider that's a challenge rating 1 or 3 or whatever it is, and then putting a 1st or 2nd level party up against that can still be very, very exciting. But if done right, yeah, I'd like some big off spiders. Oh, I made a curse too early in the podcast. Oh well, I'll edit it out.
Fine. Yeah, but that's
usually it's you.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I swear like I breathe. It's actually so difficult not to swear either on this podcast or when I'm working and I'm talking to someone, because usually I'm like, oh man, that's fucking class, yeah. And I just that was
I have to do that as well.
that was one actual swear word, one attempted swear word, and a third almost as well came out. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on now. So they're basically the camp before the storm right now, where they're going to have to do a bit of travel to get to it now, but they're rapidly approaching what shall we say, the final conflict of this arc. And yeah, they're piling out pretty quickly into my endgame plans right now, which is a lot of fun just to see some of that, like, because I can start to give out some of that lore and like hint, and I'm starting like more aggressively hint at like further kind of later stage things. I like to do a lot of foreshadowing. Sometimes I'll do it like more kind of subtly and just put things in there. Like the first mission my guys went on, I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent now, but the first mission my guys went on,
no, by all means,
they found this.
We have 16 minutes before the 20-minute mark, so feel free to knock yourself out.
Sweet. But they found this like underground. They were a child went missing. They went looking for the child in the forest. In the forest, they found that there was a rupture in the earth, a huge rupture in the earth from an earthquake that had happened previously. They felt when they were traveling there. They go down inside there because they see as the ruptured earth has revealed like an underground tunnel underneath. They follow that, find the temple, and inside that temple there's like a broken seal. I said it's got all these different words of like chaining and containment and punishment and like just generally like words of binding and containment all inscribed over, but it's been shattered. They find the child inside the temple. They come out and they have to defeat like this shadow wolf that spawns from the broken seal. And that was like their first big mission. Fast forward about 10 levels, and they're saving the dragonborn floating island place from the pirates. And as part of that, the ruler of that island and the head and the abbot of the monastery invite the both of them to come into this like sacred room where they're going to explain to them exactly the nature of how these islands stay floating and the blessings of Batman and all that. They come into the room. And the temple they're in, I describe it like looks exactly like I word for word used the same description as the one I did on their very first mission. And like I could see it in their faces that they were twigging, and like then I just started getting more and more blatant with it. Then as the more I saw it, and as soon as I got to the seal, I was like, you see a seal on the ground, fully intact, with words of like binding and chaining and containment and punishment and imprisonment on it. It's completely. And when I got to that, that's when I saw like the penny drop and the lights come on. But I had to really rely on 2 players for that because 2 of my players weren't there at level 1.
Yes, because you did a party change. So the second seal in the draconic floating island place, that one was intact, was it?
Yeah. So to their knowledge now, 1 seal has fallen. So there's 4 elemental seals. 1 has fallen. They've saved 1, and there's 2 left that they don't know where they are yet. The potential falling of these floating islands would have meant the seal would have been destroyed. That would have been another one lost. Other way around. They would have destroyed the seal, and the seal and the energy contained within is what powers, and like the divine energy used to create the seal is what keeps the islands floating. So if the fire seal goes, the islands drop out of the sky and into the ocean.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So there was if they had lost that fight, it wouldn't have gone well for the Dragonborn.
No, probably not. That's it. That I like stuff like that though, where like big influential changes can happen in the world. That can be particularly fun going from campaign to campaign. If you do utilize the same world, because if something like that happened where if they had failed and the seal was destroyed or whatever, and the islands dropped out of the sky into a big pile of rubble and stuff like that in the sea, or just sank straight to the bottom, where would all those refugees have gone? Would the next kingdom now have a huge amount of dragonborn refugees showing up? Would another nearby island be invaded and trying to taken over in an attempt to hold, take over something and have some land that is yours now that you've lost everything you own, kind of thing?
it would
would pirates become way more violent, and these Dragonborn pirates become way more violent and desperate because it's not just that they're stealing to make a living; they're stealing to stay alive now. That could have been that could have had huge, really cool influences.
Yeah, and that was just kind of when that was like the first proper peek at like the end game plot that they got, and it was just really cool to see the foreshadowing payoff. It was something I wrote, and I was like, when I was writing the first session, I was like, oh, I think this is what the end game is going to be. And now I'm here, and I'm like, oh, look, I actually managed to keep it consistent, kind of.
I tried to do something like that in campaign 1, where I had planned that you would meet the big bad, the Clockwork Man, multiple times throughout the campaign, or at least hints that he is around and pulling the strings in the background. And early in the campaign, you'd encounter him a couple times, which is fine. But then I didn't really have much going on from multiple levels. And you went off on this other quest, the Underdark, which didn't really have anything to do with it. But I knew in my head that there was a time travel plot coming into it, and that the Clockwork Man had gone back in time, and that he knew everything you guys did to acquire the shards of arrows, which are essentially the Infinity Stones, in that homebrew world I made. So he kind of, I tried to do a thing where, like, every time you would complete a personal arc and get one of the shards, you would find out that someone, or the Clockwork Man specifically, had somehow orchestrated those events, because that's how you come into possession. And he wants you guys to have them so that they're all in one place, and then he just swoops in, kills you, takes them all at once. You're basically gathering them for him. And it didn't super pan out the way I wanted, because I kind of left a lot of stuff to do with the Clockwork Man to decide for a long time in the middle of the campaign. And I tried to kind of shoehorn in a couple of bits, and it just didn't click quite as I would have liked it to. But you seem to have a much more solid grasp on foreshadowing with regards to your campaign.
I know it's more so like I'll just stick with my ideas, and but I will like mold them around and kind of like change them, and like the purpose will stay the same, but the implementation will change. If you get me.
How do you mean?
So like, let's say when I was writing that, I was like, okay, like the whole plan would be like, oh, they have to stop these other seals from falling, and if they don't, that's when the big bad is going to be resurrected and stuff. And so like, I'm kind of like similar-ish kind of plotline to what I'm going on now, without getting into spoiler territory here. Yeah. But like similar-ish plotline to what I'm doing now, in that they're aware these seals are there and the seals are falling, and they need to be protected from the big bad that they're kind of aware of now. But like that, there are more layers to it now, and in terms of like what it means to the story is slightly different now, and like and like how, because like it was a thing where it was like I wrote that first, and I wrote that going, I'm probably not going to come back to this for like 8-9 levels, which could be literally like 2 years, depending on how often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like when it came down to that, I was like, it was just a thing where I was like, I just wrote it down on a whim, and I was like, you know what, I can make, like, if at level like 9, I'm like, you know what, I'm not feeling the plan I had for this, let's change it up. I can it'll just be a weird thing they saw on a mission, they won't ever know. But I was able to kind of thankfully stick with my original idea, improve it, and kind of work on it, and that's when I kind of eventually got to it like that. But yeah, what about yours? It's been a lot of fun recently in your campaign.
Yeah, so you guys had a huge well, I won't say like a mini hex crawl arc there for a little while. You were basically hired by the Resistance to find a lord named Christoph Valdrine, who was he's basically like, he was kind of in like well, a little bit. If you mix that with Lafayette from Hamilton and a few other things, he's this really eccentric character, but he's kind of like in Her Majesty's Secret Service almost. He worked directly for the Queen, and he kind of did some like CIA level BS. I almost cursed again. I'm going to try not to. Some CIA level BS in other countries in terms of like orchestrating rebellions and stuff like that, and causing the people to rise up and install new governments and all that kind of jazz. So he's very well versed in that, and the Resistance is all like, go find this guy. If we're going to start a rebellion, he's the guy who's got the flint to light the fire,
Yeah.
So you went looking for him, and he was in a town called Solaster, which was currently besieged by elves and centaurs and stuff like that, who were trying to retake the land from humans, who have taken it centuries prior. And he's like, I can't leave the town because the elves, they might destroy the place if I do. Myself and my people are kind of working to keep the town safe. And you were like, okay, look, we'll try and resolve that issue with the elves. The elves asked you to go and clear out a separate section of forest because they're like, we're only here because the forest we actually want to be in is overrun with undead. So then you were like, cool, we love killing undead. And you went off, and oh my, did you kill some undead?
Oh my!
I should have had one of those clickers, the little hand clicker things, so that every time you killed an undead, I'd probably be up to well over 100.
I was gonna say, like, you'd have a sprained fucking thumb just from constantly going.
Yeah.
Particularly that last fight where it was just like constant waves of undead coming in with the cadaver collector, like, oof.
So like you cleared one dungeon, you did a bit of a hex crawl, did a couple other sites, met some frost giants and stuff like that. Went to another site. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Yeah, where Era turned into a bat and went into the furthest chamber without killing any enemies behind him. Bats have 1 hit point, so he got a slap of an arcane bolt, and then hit the ground. And then you guys were like, "Oh, we got to get the hell in there!" So you ran through all the zombies and all the ghouls and everything to get inside. And then you ran past them as well, and then you turned around in this dead-end room that you're in, and you're like, cool, now the 4 of us have to get out of here. and I basically made it so that I think there was like close to 20 tokens. We were using Roll20. I think I had close to 20 tokens on the board. And every time you would kill off these little minion style, I did the minion system where I kind of just give them like 3 or 4 health points each. And I had multiples of them just swarming in, and every time you'd kill them at the top of every round, I would just take all the tokens that you'd killed previously and put them back on the board outside the room to represent more and more hordes is coming in. And it was a long fight, and oh my god, like you guys, it was tense.
Literally everything I have in terms of my class features and like relation, but like anything and everything I have from items, weapons to my class features, I was literally tapped. I think I had a rage left at the end.
Yeah, and then you might have gotten out of there. You were kind of getting close to the point where like you might be able to manage this. But then rather than risk it, Wabu decided the ring of wish that he had with a single wish stored in it. He burnt that wish, and he said, "I wish that all of the undead inside and around this temple that we're in were turned to ash." And there was a big flash of green light, and they all just fell away like Thanos style, got snapped away out of existence. And you survived, and it was insane. It was a long, tense session, and there was multiple times where I was like watching you guys doing stuff, and I started off, and I'm like, cool. So the zombies they'll amble in and they'll start attacking and stuff. And there was multiple times where I'm not in control. I'm not in control of the situation anymore. Like the zombies are going to do this, and I can't stop them because that's what zombies would do. And I do not have my hands on the reins right now.
It was very tense. And I remember finishing that and been like, I think we finished that around like midnight. I think I had.
It was a late one.
Yeah, I think I had work at like 8 a.m. the following day, and I was there at like 12, lying in bed, adrenaline pumping through my veins, going, "How am I getting to sleep?"
Yeah. In sessions like that, I tend to, when I should be going to bed, and my fiance is already in bed, I'm just like, I'll be there in a half hour. I'm gonna go and clean up some of the kitchen or something, just to kind of take some time to kind of wind down.
Yeah.
But yeah, and but you did it. You succeeded. You cleared out the forest. The elves were happy. They moved away from Solaster. You got Christoph Aldrin. You traveled back to Temerai, which is where the Resistance is currently based. And then you had 16 weeks of downtime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 4 months.
Which is 4 full months of downtime. Yeah, and it went really well. You guys did a lot of different stuff. You came back this week, and it was a good session.
This is probably the downtime that I've enjoyed the most. Just like, even though like most of the stuff that came out of it, I trained my dog and I made a really cool chariot, which we can talk about either or if you want to in a while. But like, in terms of like being just incredibly hype about what came out and it not even being for me, Like not even being something that like I engaged in on downtime, but just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hearing about it. And like I know we're definitely going to talk about that, but like, oh my god, like the guild, I'm so excited. The guild is just, I find like it is exactly like what I want out of it. Like particularly like that we have squads and stuff now as well. Oh my
Mhm.
god, I was just like when you were like, oh, you were this and you were this, and then when Eric was like, okay, your title is this and your title is this and this is your function in the guild.
That was good. He didn't tell me
Oh,
that.
so cool, so
He did
cool.
not tell me that. I was going to do that, and I'm kind of glad I didn't now because it would have conflicted with him. Gavin did that off his own back and assigned you each positions within the guilds that you were like the upper management of this particular department and stuff like that, which is very cool.
It's very cool. I believe I am the Hunter General. Wabu is the Master at Arms. Arkham is the Keeper of. It was either Keeper of.
Keep up words, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say Keeper of Books, but I think it's Keeper of Words. And then Aerith is the Director, I believe. Director.
He's going by director, master director, or something like that. Yeah, he's the head of the guild essentially.
Yeah, and then we have 3 squads. What was it again?
Auroch squad,
Yes.
Basilisk squad, and Chimera squad.
Chimera squad, and we decided that because we are the top tier team in the group. We are the S squad, Spectre squad, which is
Spectre squad.
Spectre squad.
It was really, really good. You guys, you met back up, and we'll talk more about what you completed in your downtime in a minute. But basically, where you're at in the campaign now, you were in the guild hall, catching up, talking about what happened, what each of you did over your downtime. You were approached by a woman you know named Captain Elise Patara. She is a captain in the Imperial Army who are currently occupying the city that you're in, and you've worked for her before to get rid of a debauchery and sex cult that was running a brothel slash drug den.
Yeah.
In the middle of the city, and you guys infiltrated, killed the ringleaders, skimmed a little bit of gold off the top for yourselves, if I'm not mistaken.
Just a tad.
Just a tad, just a couple. It was just a small chest worth.
Yeah, look, demons had it. They were just going to use it for bad things. We used it for good things.
This is true. Because of that, she was like, hey, look, there's been some deaths. There's been a breakout at the sanatorium. Multiple dangerous magic users, mages, and the like have broken out. We would like your help catching one in particular. And you guys and her kind of went around town as a group together, investigating a couple different sites. You got to the second building, with the help actually of your newly trained hound. We'll talk about that in a second as well. And in the attic of this house, you found a large, tall, standing mirror.
I'm just gonna stop you right now. As soon as you said large, tall, standing mirror, I was like, something's gonna be fucked up with that mirror.
Well, you see, you say that, but I said the word. I was watching each of you, and I said the word mirror when I described the room 3 times. One time when Aerith first went in there, one time to Wabu when he went upstairs, and he's like, and then I think I just said it to Arkham at one point as well, because he's like, "Are we just in the room by ourselves?" And I said, "Yeah, it's the 5 of ye." 6 technically with Frost. It's the 6 of you in the room, standing around. There's like furniture around you, and I made a point to say the dresser, the wardrobe, and the mirror each time, so that I didn't just say, because if I just went, it's a bunch of furniture and a mirror, then obviously you would know the mirror is the thing I want you to go for. So I made sure to say dresser, wardrobe, mirror every time I described the furniture in the room.
The mirror was my next guess after. Like, I think I searched the room and I was like, it's definitely the mirror now. Like, there's this creepy house, nobody else is in there. There's a dead body in here that looks all kinds of messed up. And then something came out of the mirror, and then I knew I was right.
Yeah, so you guys found that the mirror was magical, had some sort of conjuration magic on it. Turns out it's a portal, and a hand came out of it, grabbed a hold of Elise Patara, and pulled her in. And you guys followed.
By the ponytail, if I remember rightly, which must have hurt like hell.
I don't think I said ponytail, but sure, that's canon now. Why not? She got caught by the hair and ripped through a mirror.
That was it, sorry, yeah.
But yeah, that's it. So you guys are currently pursuing her into who knows where.
We're in some kind of giant glass marble / hourglass that's between planes, or I suspect.
Yeah, it's like a demi-plane.
Yeah, between, yeah. It's like a demi-baguette, a small plane, yeah.
Like it's all black rock, swirling grey clouds, desert sands that are pouring from a column hourglass like, and then pouring off the sides of this island that you were on of stone and rock.
And the occasional flash of red and purple lightning, I believe, as well.
Yeah, and there is So it's like there's constantly a slow tide of sand that is making its way from the center out to the outsides and pooling off the sides and stuff like that. But that's where you're at in the campaign. Prior to all this, though, Martin.
Yes.
You guys had some really exciting downtime where you each got to do quite a lot. You had a good level in the game because you've had downtimes a couple times previously, or at least once previously.
Yeah, we have one significant one previously.
Yeah. And in that downtime period, you were only like level 5 or something like that. You didn't have a ton of money. It wasn't. I don't think it was particularly long. It was definitely shorter than this one because this one was 4 months.
I think it was 3 months last time.
Yeah. So this one's 4 months, so you had more time to do things as well. But also this time you have way more money and resources and connections, and you know the world better. So and you're at level 11, so perfect mid game. You have good amount of money, good amount of resources, and all that stuff, and you're in a place where you can actually do some. You can be proper movers and shakers. So you managed to get some really cool stuff done. Martin, why use downtime?
Honestly, just to break it up for your players and to make things easier for you as well. Because, like, if you're a DM and, like, you're just constantly trying to pump out, like, new, exciting, fresh action content, everything, like, just constantly, you're going to burn yourself out so fast. And your players...
Yeah, we're not Kevin Feige. Like.
Yeah. But also, like, your players will probably get sick of it as well, and like things that would be special, like if you run 4 weeks solid of combat isn't going to feel that special anymore. Like everything, so it's like that cycle, so everything in moderation or everything in balance. Just back to Thanos again, balanced as all things should be. But that it's a way that you can narratively and mechanically push the game forward without like actually having to do like sessions, and you can just give your players license as well to go ape and just explore what they want to explore about the world. Like if you're playing in a regular game and someone's like, I want to go here, and the rest of the group are like, I don't want to go there, I want to go here, normally the one person who's on the opposite end of the vote is just like, okay, cool, I guess we'll get around to my thing later maybe. If you're in downtime, that person can actually go on a one-person mission and go off and research and doesn't have to contend with, realistic speaking, if you went off on your own in the game of D&D and you're traveling down the roads, you're probably going to get like mugged by bandits or attacked by a bunch of zombies and then action economy, and even if you're like level 8, you're going to die. So it's,
true.
So it's that kind of a thing where like, journeying on your own in D&D, if you were to play it out mechanically as the game should be, not safe. You will die. You will get murdered. But like in downtime, you give your players the opportunity to really like dig into your world and as well just kind of come up with cool stuff on their own. Like I know we've talked about it a bunch of times, but like my players have been like super good about like crafting things and just making them like, now they're also just like dismantling the corpse of any monster they fight now. If you've ever seen that
real Monster Hunter World stuff there. Like.
Oh dude, it's more like, do you ever see that thing where like the fire ants come along? And there's a dead cow, and then all the ants sweep over it, and then like a couple seconds later,
time lapse of it.
Yeah, and seconds later they like sweep back, and it's just bones. That's what my players are starting to like now with monsters. Like they killed the fire giant this week in there, and like my rogue just goes, "What about a foot? Can I take off a whole foot?" And I was like, "Yeah, and you know if you tilted it this way instead of flat, you could actually probably fit it into your bag of holding as well." And he was like, yeah. You know, so that kind of.
If I'm not mistaken, when it comes to potions of giant strength,
it's usually
the toe is the specific ingredient.
Yeah, that that's literally why they're doing it. Yeah, but yeah, that's
a full 5 potions right there.
Yeah, 10 if you get both. But it's like I just like what it offers the game. It offers the game another dimension where like most of the time. Yeah, D&D is a collaborative storytelling game, basically. But the DM shapes... It's like... I'd say like 80-20, probably. For like, in terms of like input on how the story unfolds. No, not how it unfolds, but like the setup of the story in DM to player. And that the DM will generally have an overarching story they want to tell. And then you'll get backstories from players. And you will just kind of Lego them together. Or Voltron them together is probably a better way to put it. and just kind of, and that's kind of how you adapt your story. You will have a world, and a spoiler for anyone who's thinking about being a DM and hasn't, and you have this idea that you'll have, this is my story and all these things. You will have a story, you will have a world, and you will build out all your worlds, and then you'll talk to your players. You go, hey guys, what do you want to play? And then one of your players will come down and be like, I want to play an old man with a ton of piercings whose weapon is an electric guitar. And now I did steal that character from Jujutsu Kaisen, but I'll have no judgment on that from anyone listening.
No plan survives contact with the enemy.
Yes, exactly.
And very much no homebrew world survives contact with a party.
Yeah, like, I think, was it you that was saying, is like, there were no like Celtic style barbarians in my world in any way, and then I just happened to come along and be like, I'd like to play this.
Oh yeah, I think I had some idea. I had ideas about what king. I knew there'd be a human kingdom there.
Yeah.
I hadn't really fleshed it out. I think they were meant to be a little bit barbarian-ish, but not like terribly so. And then you were like, I want to play Cú Chulainn as a character, and I'm like, well, I guess they're mad Celtic warriors then.
yeah, absolutely. And like, I think my best example of that is like, I didn't have Tabaxi in my world, and then I got a new player who was like, I'm going to be a Tabaxi wildfire druid, and I was like, there is a tribe of mountain-dwelling Tabaxi druids on this now that previously mainly giant area, but okay. Because cougars are mountain cats.
That's been off the topic of downtime, but in terms of world building, totally let your. I wasn't correcting you, sorry. But like totally let your players inform the world, because like that's one example, right? So Caelda, which is the country your character has come from, is a Celtic Viking-ish kind of meld. But I didn't have a country like that in my world. I do now, specifically because you guys kind of like, you specifically made a character, and I'm like, that's a cool thing. You made it that he had tattoos, and that he was kind of like, again, Celtic kind of style to him, and that his tattoos are very specific to his clan, and he was from the Hound clan specifically and all that. I'm like, oh, so there could be like other animal clans and stuff. So like that entirely informed the creation of Caelda as a country for me. There was also another one where, for a one-shot, my friend Aaron, I think I talked about it before in the podcast, my friend Aaron was looking at the characters he can play, and he kind of wanted to play a Shikamaru-style character, so he saw Shadow Monk, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And instead of picking human or elf or anything like that, he was like, and I think I'll play this Earth Ganassi thing, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. No one ever plays Earth Ganassi, but I'm totally down for it. Because I think I love Earth Ganassi. I love all Ganassi.
I've literally never seen an Earth Ganassi.
Yeah. And I think all the Ganassi races are so cool. But yeah, so he's like, I'll play an Earth Ganassi Shadow Monk. And out of that became the creation of this the city-state of Gyaoyan, which is up in the northern mountains. It has the single largest archive of information anywhere in the world, because all of these Shadow Monk informants basically go out to the world, collect information, and send it back home. So they're essentially like the internet of the world. They gather information, and this is the central hub of all that information. But that entire city only exists because of a character Aaron played in a one-shot, and I'm like, that's really, really cool. I should just like incorporate that into the world somehow.
Yeah. But anyway, to get back onto the point I was making before I went on a wild tangent about players just changing your DM thing. The reason I went on that tangent is because it's saying downtime gives your players an opportunity to share in a bit of that world shaping. They can say, I want to go and quest for this, and again, similarly, it appears in your world. Unless it's something you really don't want to include in your world. Like they can do stuff like they can go on journeys. There's so many options open to you in downtime that I think it's almost like it adds a new pillar to the game, because you've got your like exploration and social. And combat or whatever, and I think like downtime is just another element when you can add into that, almost that just like, it really gives your players a lot of latitude and ground to just either set stuff up for when your downtime ends, or like just to really dig into their character, or just build cool shit. Just checking. But yeah, you just build cool shit just because you want to. That's like, I think that is maybe one of my favorite things in D&D, because like, if you play like Final Fantasy VII, if you want the ultimate weapon, there's only one ultimate weapon. It looks real cool, does lots of real cool stuff, but at the end of the day, if you want the best weapon in the game, it's the ultimate weapon. In D&D, you can just be like, I want a gun that shoots electrified bats. And
I like it.
And you could legitimately go and build that. You just need to kill the right combination of monsters in D&D, and that's why I love Downtime, because you can do insane shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it lets the players. I mean, that Downtime is kind of like a lot of the game primarily is it's exploration, combat, and social. But that's all presented by the DM, and then the players kind of react to it and how they see fit. And the players have a certain amount of autonomy and agency when it comes to that as well. They get to choose how they resolve these conflicts, these issues, and these challenges that the DM puts in front of them. Downtime is kind of the one time in game that the player or that the DM might say absolutely nothing other than, what do you want to do? There's no prompts, there's nothing. You have X amount of free time, go nuts. And then the players really get to involve themselves. You mentioned about going and exploring different parts. Arkham on the first Downtime segment actually went to that city, Garion. He went there and he did some research there, which is a thing you can do. You can look up information or try to find information in kind of like Gandalf in Fellowship when he goes to Minas Tirith, and he's there in the archives pooling through all the old parchments and stuff. You can go looking for information about stuff, and then the DM, and it's a great way that the DM doesn't have to. The DM does not need to kind of find a way in the story for you to stumble across the right information for the plot to continue.
Yeah.
If a player is really interested in a particular storyline and goes, okay, we know they're hanging out in a place called, I don't know, Dark Keep. We got to find what Dark Keep is. Cool. You go to the archive, you make a check. If you get a successful check, the DM's like, there was one mention of Dark Keep, and it's actually a ruined fortress. It actually goes under its Elvish name, but commonly it's known as Dark Keep, and it's up in the mountains to the northeast or something like that. And then that progresses the plot, and the DM gets a valid way of granting you that information because you actively went looking for it. And it's the only time that players get to be, because it's always a case of the DM says something and the players say yes, and the players react to the thing the DM has presented them, which now is the reverse of that. The players get to go, I want to build this, or I want to go here, or I want to learn this, and then the DM gets to go, cool, we'll roll some of this, and you'll spend some gold on that, and we'll do the thing you want to do. Cool.
So what you're saying is Downtime is the reverse Uno card of D&D.
Basically, yeah.
Hit him with that reverse Uno. Yeah. I would agree though. Yeah, that's totally. Yeah. I think. Yeah, it's just also just a lot of fun. Like it's I don't know. There's something very like almost like cowboys and Indians about it that I love. In that it's this total like, yeah, where do I want to go? What do I want to do in this whole wide world? Like it's like starting off like a really good I nearly said MMORPG, but a really good open world game. It's like where like you're kind of, do you know, it's like that moment in the most recent God of War, where you know, in the trailer, and you know, like it's in the most recent God of War, where you kill a stag, and then like and you know, kind of have a moment where after you kill it, and then like but then like a dragon flies overhead and flies off into the distance, and Kratos and Atreyu just look up at it and watch it past, and it's like that.
Oh, doesn't the fog kind of dissipate or something like that? You see the size of the world. Am I misremembering that?
Oh yeah, that's it. Because as you progress through the game, you change the water level in this giant lake, and you unlock more and more places as the world serpent moves, and because of his shifting of his body weight, displaces more or less water. But like with stuff like that, it's kind of that feeling where it's like you just feel the whole world open in front of you, and you're like, oh, I have so much I can do. And you almost have that like, I think I actually did notice people with Downtime, particularly the first Downtime, and I think it's something that DM should probably watch out for. The first time you give your players Downtime, they're probably going to get some of them at least anyway, probably get a case of the old analysis paralysis, where they're like, I have so many options, what do I actually do?
Oh yeah, I get you.
You know, and that like, and they're like, oh, I could do this and this, and so like I found, at least with my guys, particularly the guys who are newer to D&D, when I was like, okay, Downtime, you can do anything you want. Here, I literally listed out all the options. Here's all the options for what you could do. I have rules for all of this. We can do this. If anything on this that you see on this that like that you want to do that isn't on this list, let me know. We can work it out with a combination of all the other rules. You know, that kind of way. And I think just when you're the first time you give some Downtime to your players, particularly if they're newer to the game, I think you probably have to give them a little bit more of a guiding hand and be like, hey, you could make a magic item, you could do this, you could do that, you know, maybe kind of like You may have to make some suggestions, but I found then with the second downtime, the players are much more like, oh, so you said last time we can do this, and this. I want to do this. I have these monster bits. I have this item, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I didn't use downtime at all in the first campaign we did, and I don't think it was hugely detrimental.
No,
But I did think that that using it this campaign gave you guys some opportunities to do some stuff. Like I said, you got to well, what did you do? What did you do your first downtime actually?
My first downtime, I made the Chain of Returning for my spear, and I made the Hound armor. I made the blackened plate scaled armor.
Yes, that's right, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was a relatively short amount of time, but yeah, you got some cool stuff done, and like your character still wears that armor, or at least the helmet of that armor.
Yeah, the helmet still wears the helmet.
Yeah.
I picked up a set of adamantine a while back. That kind of
You did.
Yeah, I couldn't pass up.
But you did that, and I mean the chain is something you use pretty regularly.
The chain saved our ass a while back.
The chain was pretty clutch in that thing when you went down into the temple with all the undead, because you managed to chain the outer door, so you only had to fight what was inside the temple and not what was outside potentially coming in.
Yeah.
So it absolutely came in clutch for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, they wrapped it between the doors and put a pin for climbing down between all the links so it wouldn't unwrap.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a blind panic. I'm a barbarian. I can't cast spells. What can I do? I can be a nuisance.
Yeah. I can just chain this up as tightly as possible.
Yeah.
And then what kind of stuff did you do? I know this.
Yeah.
I'm asking for the audience, Martin. What kind of stuff did you do for the current downtime that we just finished?
So second time around, like you said, we have more options available to us now. We have more money. We're a higher level. We have more connections. Know more about the world. And so because that, and obviously as well in that time, new rules came out. Specifically, probably, do you want to talk about Frost first?
Oh yeah, sure. Whatever you want to go with, yeah.
The major goal of my downtime originally was to do specifically because sidekicks came out in between the last downtime we had and in Tasha's, and I wanted to have, because my character is from the Hound clan, I thought it sounded completely, and they're like a very martial kind of people. So it was like, they're the Hound clan, of course they have war dogs, and like sidekicks came out, and I was like, oh, you could literally pick like a direwolf or whatever as your like fighter sidekick. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, absolutely, let's go with the war dogs. You said, yeah, we could do it next time. So I basically spent this entire the majority of my time for this downtime, like training my. I have a. Why can I not remember?
A Valinor hound.
Yeah, I have a Valinor hound named Frost, who is bonded with me, and yeah, I basically prior to downtime, I commissioned some scale armor for him, and then over the course of downtime, I basically, we narratively said that like I trained him for months to like fully train him up as a war dog, and now he's an 11th level fighter.
Warrior, isn't it?
Warrior, sorry, that was a warrior something.
It's a psychic thing.
And he's a tank.
You have scale armor, I believe, for him.
Yeah,
he's got 101 hit points, 17 armor class.
Yeah, but 17 for the scale. Yeah.
Yeah, and 11. Does he have 3 attacks? He gets extra attack as well.
2, I think. He's on. I think he's actually. Joe, I have a stat sheet here on my in my.
Yeah,
notes.
just I'm thinking like because it's Tasha's. In Tasha's, do they get extra attacks when they're a warrior in the same way the fighters do?
They do indeed. Yeah, they do.
So at 11th level, he probably would have 3 attacks in that case.
I think they get it at slightly different.
No, it is 15. Extra attack 2 comes in at 15. Yeah, 15. That's fine.
Yeah, he does have 2 attacks now, but yeah, he's got 18 strength, 15 con, 100 and was it like 107 HP, 17 base armor class and a speed of 40, and his bite attack, while being only common, does have an attached strength save of 16, or he's pinning you to the ground.
I'd always love that about all dog creatures in D&D have that thing where if they bite you, they can potentially knock you to the ground.
Well, he's really good. He's a defender as well, so he narratively it made sense because like I'm an ancestral barbarian, so all my stuff is like I give disadvantage on attacking my allies. So like I picked the martial role as a defender for him, so he can use his reaction to impose disadvantage on an attack roll if he's beside an ally. So like if someone
That's
tries to
really
attack and that, so like it just felt very appropriate for like the kind of style of barbarian I am to like have a dog that does something similar. I thought it would be really cool. And then he just gets cool stuff like second wind, improved critical battle readiness, and one use of indomitable is what he got at 11, which is so good. And what's really cool as well is you can choose what saving throws you have. So naturally I went dexterity.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah, so he's got a +6 as dex save as well. Yeah, it's, you would be shocked how good like some lower level monsters are for like martial sidekicks once you actually are able to start layering some levels on them. Oh, and he can dash as a bonus action because of his Valinar gift.
That's right, actually. Yeah. It's he's incredibly. It's essentially a whole other party member.
Yeah, it's like they kind of scooped out the simplest but also some most streamlined and best features of like fighter and barb and smashed them together to make the warrior.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he has resistances, but yeah, like he gets a lot of really good stuff, in that there, and yeah, so yeah, I spent a lot of the time doing that, and it was something I just had wanted to do for a while now. I think like months ago, I was like, could Lug get a dog? And you were like, yeah. And I think I got him. I may have actually gotten him the previous downtime, I think, or just before the previous downtime.
You got him after you guys won the broom race because you went shopping that day.
Oh, yeah.
And you went to a place called Breeder's Boutique in Temerai, where they was a pet shop essentially, and that's where you bought him from. I believe a half elf gentleman.
I think so.
If I remember right.
I believe so. Very flamboyant is what I remember.
Yeah.
But
I kind of imagined him as someone who'd be really into like dog shows and stuff like that.
Crufts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's super dope because like I said, it's something I wanted to do for ages. And like I think it was like partly inspired as well by like a book I was reading where like there was a specific element of their forces that were made up of these like mages. They were more like druids, but they could like join their wills with like wild animals and like essentially like an animal companion, and they all had these like gigantic mastiffs that were like fully armored. No, it wasn't mastiffs, it was like wolfhounds that were fully armored in plate, and but like they would like the mages could put like their mind in the hound's body. So like you would be fighting these things and like your infantry line starts up with like a shield wall, and then like 9 gigantic wolfhounds fully decked out in plate armor just smash through your front lines, like with like the physical characteristics of this gigantic dog covered in metal, but like the mind of a veteran warrior. So it's like it's basically like a sentient bulldozer that knows how to fuck up battle formations. Like, and I was like, that's like, so cool.
Like kind of like wargs in Game of Thrones, where you can inhabit the minds.
That's kind of exactly what it is. They're called will casters in this book. Because you can cast your will into different things. But yeah, it was that was kind of partly inspired. Yeah, and it was just such a cool idea as well. And like Cú Chulainn had like 3 hounds that he just released on people when he fought them. So I was like, yeah, let's just keep leaning into that myth. I'll lean all the way until we're basically completely horizontal. Let's keep going. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then I also, if we were done talking about sidekicks, or is there anything else you wanted to ask about that?
No. I mean, like Frost was a big one because I know you got, like you said, the broom. You got him just after the broom race. That was only 2 or 3 sessions after the previous downtime.
Yeah. And
then we were a few months playing and stuff, and you'd been planning for some time to take the time in order to train him up correctly. So that's honestly, that's one of the best things. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out. We had an episode we did earlier in the podcast where we talked about sidekicks and how they may play out. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Frost will work within the balance of the party. You know, will it be a serious buff to the strength of the party, or you know, will it be OP? Will it be underpowered? Like, what will it be? You know, and but I do think that given the HP, the armor class, the attacks he gets, and having Indomitable and a few other kind of features of that from Fighter and Barb, makes him really, really good. Like I think in combat he'll be exceptionally good. Even I said this the other night when we were playing. Having a dog or a hound or a wolf in the party of some kind is so good because they all get advantage on their perception checks for smell, and it makes tracking in the party super cool. Like, so
yeah, we actually used that in our session this week where we were trying to like locate and escape murder. So I had Frost like look for their scent basically, And
around the crime scene.
Yeah, I was able to find it, lost it, but then when we did find the right place, we knew it was the right place because he was able to be.
Because he knew what the scent was. He's like, the scent is here.
Yeah, and like, yeah, that's like everything I wanted out of that was like absolutely aside. Like, I have the dog and like hunting stuff down with the dog, and we did like an almost like Rainbow Six Siege style like breach and clear of the house, where like for us and like. But he's particularly cool as a sidekick because he's a Valinor hound, so he can telepathically communicate with me from like 100 feet away. And it's just so cool to be like, okay, we're gonna go into this house, and then like Lug just looks down at his dog and just goes, seek and destroy in Elvish, and the dog's like, okay, I know what this means. So like specific commands. And he went off like searching for the scent and stuff. That was just so dope. Yeah, I'm loving how he's playing so far. We haven't actually taken him into a proper fight yet. Actually next week probably will, just judging by how the previous session ended. But yeah,
exactly.
I'm very like, he doesn't do a lot of damage, but I think he'll be very useful. Like he's only got the bite attack, and I think that's like a D6 + 4.
It's not huge, but even then, like, I mean, this does make a saving throw against that, I believe.
Yeah, if they did make the save against it, but as well, like it's not magical. So like there's a bunch of creatures now where he just won't be able to hurt them, but he'll be able to pin them down, which is like super cool anyway.
Yeah, or he'll grant flanking, or he'll also be an additional damage sponge. He'll be able to take some hits and distract from the rest of the party and stuff. I mean, I do think he'll be a substantial, even if he's not doing a ton of damage. I do think he'll be a substantial.
Just as another target, or just even as another target.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the action economy, like. Yeah. And if he is dividing some of the enemy attacks into himself, and you guys are taking less as a result, that means he stays standing for longer. That means you do more hits and stuff. So it does work out that damage wise, and kind of indirectly, damage wise, he will benefit the party.
Yeah.
You also made a particularly interesting magical item.
Yeah.
Using scrap metal from a cadaver collector.
Yes, this was the other thing that I've been annoying you about for months. Literally, like the two things I've been just not giving up on shouting on about for this campaign were I want a dog and I want a flying ghost horse chariot. And yeah, so like partly inspired by just, if you've ever read a Thor comic and seen any scenes of him from before he was an Avenger, where he's just like a party boy god. I think he does still have it sometimes, but most of the time he flies by Mjolnir in modern times. But like he's got like this chariot that's pulled by two giant goats. And it's so cool and so ridiculous that I was like, you know what, I want that for Lug. And then I was like, that'd be cool. And then I immediately thought of like Hades' chariot from Hercules, because it's just this big like black metal evil looking thing that like pulled him through the sky with I think his were like horses with bat wings or giant bats or something. It's been, I should really know
horses with bat wings, I want to say.
That would make sense as well, considering the Pegasus has angel wings and stuff. But yeah, I wanted something cool like that, and finally you were like, you could probably adapt a cadaver collector's metals to like summon ghostly war horses instead of like the horrible ghosts that will kill you kind. And yeah, that was really cool. So what I kind of I knew I wanted the flying ghost horse chariot, but then I remembered there's an old Irish myth, and here's where you can play your Micflayers bingo where I bring up Irish mythology. But in Irish mythology there's a thing called the Cuiste Bower, which means the death coach. And it is summoned by the cries of the Banshee. So the Banshee appears outside the house of someone who is about to die, specifically with an O surname, or Mac surname, I believe. And when they're about to die, she'll cry, and the cry of the Banshee summons the Cuiste Bower. And the Cuiste Bower, in Irish mythology, basically appears like a stagecoach, or like an old style like horse-drawn hearse, and it's driven by a Doolan. Like the actual coach driver is like a headless horseman. And the legend says that when the Cuiste Bower is summoned forth from the afterlife by the cries of the Banshee, it will not return back to the afterlife until it has claimed a soul to bring back with it. And I was like, that's a dope concept for a chariot, isn't it? So I made this like crazy giant like black iron and bronze chariot with like Caeled runes, which is like the language of the country my character is from. Runes like engraved into it in silver, and they're like runes of like strength, protection, and terror. And so like the command word is Ardu, which is the Irish for rise. And when you say that, it summons basically two. Imagine like Ghost Rider horses, but they're like kind of pale green instead of blue, and they're just like all skeletal and also ephemeral. But yeah, that's what I will. And it's a chariot that will go pulled by two war horses that'll go 60 feet either through the land or through the skies. And I am So freaking happy about it. Oh my god, I love it so much. It's so cool. I literally feel like a heavy metal death god riding through the skies.
It is exceptionally cool. It felt really thematically. I know you wanted it for a while. I kind of, without thinking about it, put the Cadaver Collector in as a monster for you to face off against. But then the Cadaver Collector has this recharge on a D6 ability where it can summon. I forget. It's a
Spectres,
dice
I think.
plus specters. Yeah, it's a D6 plus 2 or something like that.
Because it
Spectres.
scared the fuck out of us when it did that at the end of the boss fight.
Yeah. You were kind of getting close to the end, and then it summoned all the specters to kind of almost to buff back up the bad guy side. Luckily, when you destroy the thing, it does get rid of those as well.
Yeah.
And when you destroy the Cadaver Collector, but I mean, it seemed fitting that you would then be able to use parts of the Cadaver Collector to summon spectral horses instead of actual specters. So I kind of like that worked out. But yeah, it's a really, really cool. You haven't got a chance to use it just yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're going to cover a lot of ground very fast with that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. It's so like it's not like a combat thing. Although I could use it in combat. I just wanted it because it was cool. Like literally, and that's probably again. That's why I was saying earlier. That's like literally probably my favorite thing about D&D is that one day I literally just went, I want a flying chariot. Like just out of the blue one day, I was like, you know what? I want a flying chariot. And then months later, and then like,
I deserve it. I deserve a flying chariot. I work hard. I deserve a flying chariot.
Yeah. I could have half a necromancer's hand. Give me my chariot. But yeah, it was just something I wanted to make for ages, and that's probably my favorite thing with D&D is that there are so many cool like magic items and other things in the books that we have, and in the source books and like the materials we can pull from normally. But
there's no flying chariots.
There's one in Theros. It's just not anywhere near as cool as mine.
Oh, never mind. So
that's what we based it off of, man. You're the one
it is. Yeah, sorry, I forgot.
But yeah, it's just that. Like,
I had something else in my head about what we based it off. Yeah.
I just find it very cool in D&D, like as much as the spread of awesome magic items and stuff you have there, if you really want something unique, you can just go out there, kill the necessary thing, bring it back, and find someone, either you, a party member, or an NPC with the necessary skills, and you can make something literally one of a kind that's just super dope.
Absolutely. And they're like, I think that's what you've done. You trained up Frost, and I
trained up Frost. I built the Bower. I did some research on King Arik as well. And then also took a trip with Aerith up to Owen's grave to see if he could grim psychometry that.
Yeah.
Got a lot done.
Absolutely. You really did. You really got a lot done. I mean, like that's like 3 of the things. Well, not count. I would say we're talking about Xanathars and the revised downtime rules, which is what we primarily used.
Yeah.
That's like 3 out of those 4 things. That's 3 of them are in that. Obviously, the traveling around we mentioned earlier on, you can go and visit places and learn more about them, and it's a good way for you to experience the world without necessarily having to drag the party the whole way there for a quest or whatever. You talked about crafting a magic item, which is something that you can do in your downtime. It's all listed in Xanathars. You crafted that yourself.
Yeah, because I have Smith's tools and Barbarians have proficiency with all land vehicles, I believe.
I don't know if it's Barbarians. Might be your background potentially, but
yeah, it was either my class or my background or my yeah, I proficiency with land vehicles. So yeah, you said it was totally cool for me to make just a badass chariot. Like it's
primarily metal and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, by all means, blacksmith's tools work just fine. Yeah, I know.
To be fair, it is also very metal.
Martin just made a metal hand gesture when I said that.
It is
for the audio listeners. But yeah, I mean, so crafting a magic item is one thing that you can do with downtime. You also mentioned training Frost as well. We were kind of light on rules with that one because there's no specific rules. Where I'd have to double check
as written. It just happens. It just joins the party at whatever level.
Yeah, so we just kind of worked it in that in the time you were spending with Frost, you taught him a few tricks and stuff like that. I think you had his armor for him made separately and stuff then.
Yes.
There is training options here for downtime in Xanathars as well. Let me see here now. You can learn a language or a tool proficiency. It takes at least 10 work weeks at a gold cost. But I mean, like, that's really cool. I mean, languages hit and miss a little bit. Depending on the campaign you're playing in, languages can be either really, really useful or really, really not. But tool proficiencies I find are fantastic. Particularly, like, you could spend 10 weeks over a downtime period, pick up thieves' tools. I mean, Thieves' Tools come up so often, like, and everyone can use them from the sneaky rogue to the not so sneaky barbarian. Sometimes you do need to be able to pick a lock quietly and stuff like that, and or disarm a trap.
Yeah.
And Thieves' Tools are great to learn. So other things as well, like you might want to just have, maybe you want to be able to craft a magic item. Like you said, you have Smith's Tools already. If you didn't, though, you could have spent the first downtime learning how to use Smith's Tools, and the second downtime using them to then craft a magic item that required Smith's Tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, those are two options. You also mentioned, what we said, training, crafting a magic item. You did some research as well. There's also research rules there as well.
I've
where you get like a
fairly extensively used the research rules in my campaign because my guys have spent a lot of time in a city with a really good library. So they've probably done research, not even necessarily as downtime, but just like they'll go there and like the way I set it up is that like you can go to the library and go, I would like it's almost like you nominate someone to do the research in your stead. So like a cleric of the library will come up and be like, okay, what are you interested in? I'll go look for these for you. And then you can add, you can do the thing where like with the research you can spend I think it's 50 gold a pop to give a +1 bonus.
It's 50 gold initially, and then 100 gold for every week spent beyond the first week, and for every extra 100 gold you spend, you get a +1 bonus to the roll up to a maximum of 6.
Yeah,
+6.
Yeah. So like I found that these rules actually work like really really well. And I think they say like if you get this amount you get like 1 piece of lore, this amount you get 2, this amount you get like 3 or more pieces of lore. I really like that because you can roll like that introduces the thing of like, not everyone's going to get, you get 3 pieces of lore and you get 3 pieces of lore. I feel like that makes it feel like more of an adventure or more realistic, that I'd be like, okay, everyone is looking for these wild subjects in a library. This is like, you could find a lot on this particular subject because it's from this region. You could find a little less so, but still like decent because it's the subject you're looking for is from like a region that this region had conflict with years ago. So we do have some, so you can do stuff like that, and I really like that. And then like some people are like, okay, you're looking for something like really obscure and like related to like the foundation of the universe. So we found like a mention of this in an ancient holy book for you, but it's a passing mention. You might need to do more. I think like it's fun with that, and like you can set up storylines through research really easily and really well. So I actually really like the research downtime.
Yeah, no, it's great. I do like the way they use it. So it's either if you get like a 1 to 5, it's no effect. But every 5 beyond that, it's either you learn 1 piece, 2 pieces, or 3 pieces of lore. I like that they quantified it because how much lore you give someone is can be a vague term, depending on the role. Like how do you gauge how much someone gets for 15 versus how much they get for 17? Like it's the fact that you can be like, here are 3 facts about what the thing you're asking about. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, I'll usually count like if someone's wondering about how much they might want to write for that as well. For me personally, when I'm doing it, if I'm doing like a lower role for someone and they've done like, I'll consider like a piece of lore like a paragraph. Like they will get like a paragraph.
Yeah.
So if they get 3 pieces of lore, they'll get 3 paragraphs, and that'll usually give them a lot of info then because they'll all be related. Yeah,
I think I did one with Mike there before we came back into the session for Wabu's character. He did a little bit of research specifically regarding the ring that he has. And he actually rolled very high. He got a 20+, which I think I had a 23 or something, which grants him 3 pieces. So I told him 3 facts about the ring, or I think I told him when it was created, what it might be related to, and where he could probably find more information about it. And those are the three pieces of lore that I gave him. And it's honestly like the fact that it quantifies it makes it super super easy for you to communicate to a player, like you said, or to give them, maybe you say, all right, for every 1 piece of lore they get, it's 3 to 4 lines or a short paragraph, and then you can give them more and more depending on how those roles go.
I like doing that just because like in my head when I imagine a piece of lore, it's like you've been going, it's like you were saying earlier with Gandalf in the archives, he's like going through all the books and there's like a random sheet of paper stuck into one of the books that he opens. It's like, this is what I'm looking for. And like so in my head when like a piece of lore, I imagine like, we found this, and it's like either a passage from a book or like an old sheet of parchment, or like maybe like a scroll rolled up with vellum and that's been like sat in like a dusty cupboard for ages, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm a big fan of research. Big fan of research.
Yeah. Another big thing, stray away from Xanathars for a little bit. Another big thing that was done by Aerith, which I think pretty much, I don't think he did anything else. So Aerith is our party's Wood Elf Bloodhunter. slash rogue. Actually, he's a couple levels in rogue.
Yes.
So I don't think he did a single other task on this 16-week, this 4-month downtime. He literally just said, I want to start a guild. And I was like, cool. 16 weeks later, you have a guild. 16 weeks and quite a lot of goals later. But he luckily obtained sponsorship for that.
To be fair, out of everything we've done, including my own stuff, the guild is still probably up there for like top 3. I'm like, this is so cool. This is just, it's
so
yeah.
Yeah, he basically started his own Monster Hunter / Blood Hunter guild, which was exceptional. Like, this is the first time we've actually, barring you technically have command of a small group of mercenaries called the Grimguard.
Yes, I do.
But now this is like they're kind of like an army that are kind of at your beck and call. They're not necessarily a business, so to speak, or at least not in a very formal term. Yeah. But the Venatori Obscura, which is the name of the guild, yes. That Aerith started, it's a business. There's a guild hall, and there's people on the books, and there's a management and a receptionist and all this other stuff. So it's very much a proper business. You've been hired by the Empire to do a job now.
Yes.
Yeah. So he basically started up his own guild, and you have about 20 odd people working for you. You guys, you mentioned a while ago, you guys have your own titles within it as well, where you oversee certain things. And yeah, it's interesting. It's uncharted waters for me as a DM as well, because I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. Maybe the nerd in me wants to be like, oh, cool, I'm going to make a spreadsheet, and then I'm going to map all the rolls week to week on how much money the guild is earning, profit-wise and stuff like that.
You just love making work for yourself, don't you?
I'm a glutton for punishment. But yeah, I mean, it's exceptionally cool. It's feeding in to. I've always wanted someone to do it. And the cool thing is, right? Gavin, who plays Aerith, joined our game late. So you guys are already level 6 or 7, I want to say.
Yeah, I think around that. Yeah.
But his time, he went into the first downtime period, and then came out and started again. And a couple sessions after he started into the new downtime, or into the new post downtime 1 period, if that makes sense. I'm making that really convoluted. Gavin joined the game, and Aerith came to the party. And the thing is, when I started planning the campaign originally, obviously the 3 guys that were already there gave me what their backstories were, and I kind of worked that into the world. But Aerith kind of came out of left field, and I'm like, okay, I kind of a lot of stuff established, so it's a bit harder to work him in. And he didn't really have a huge amount of backstory. Well, he did, but not in a terribly long way or anything like that. All he knew he wanted to do, he's like, I want to start a guild. That was his entire character's thing. He wants to start an organization because his character was an elven rebel fighting against humans, and then in a bid for more power to be able to fight humans better, tried to make a pact with another worldly being, and aimed for Fae, and ended up somewhere in the far realm. And got scared shitless by what he saw, and he was like, oh my god, we're here squabbling over land and countries, and there are literal planet-eating monstrosities on the edge of the universe that want to destroy everything in their path. And then he kind of lost the flavor for being a rebel, and he's like, I'm going to go off and actually start killing these otherworldly monsters, because that's actually helping people on a much bigger scale than anything we were doing here. And that's why he wanted to start the organization. He's like, I want to start a guild that other people can join, and then we'll all fight these other worldly beings together, all these aberrations, and keep the world safe. And it's cool now that that's kind of finally taken form. A few levels later, that you have an actual guild hall. You've put that. That's always a cool thing to me is characters putting down roots.
Yes.
Because I don't know, even in like Skyrim and stuff like that, because Skyrim has the house building ability. Or like something like Fallout 4, where you actually have the base building and settlement building options.
Probably a more direct parallel, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where you could set up assassin bureaus in all these different cities.
Exactly, yeah, and like, oh sorry,
but I was just gonna say that's why I'm actually like really enjoying the guild stuff so much, because I loved Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love just being able to walk down the road, and then there's like a bunch of years like, hey Pat, so I'm gonna fuck you up, and then you're like, and then arrows rain from the sky, and they all die. And then you just see like 8 of your dudes jump down onto the street, and you're like, "I'm good, boys," and then it just disappear. Like, that's so. And like, I feel I'm getting the same kind of feeling from you're like, "Oh yeah, you've 3 squads, and they're called like Aurochs, Basilisk, and Chimera," and I'm just like, "Oh, this is so cool. This is like me playing with my action men when I was like 4."
It's it's just like it's cool, like the idea, because anytime I play a video game where you get to have a base or something like that, I role play that an awful lot when I play a game. When I play a video game, I tend to like fall into that. So like for example, Skyrim had the heart is a heart not Hearthstone Hearthstone, what's it called?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'm not the biggest on Skyrim.
I should know because it's coming out again for the millionth time. Oh my god!
I've never actually completed Skyrim.
Man, it was years after the game initially came out that I finished. I played all the guilds, and I played side quests and I explored loads. I didn't complete the main quest for like, I'd say a good like 3 or 4 years, if not more, after the no, it's 2011. Man, it might have been more. It might have been a good 5 years after the game came out that I actually completed properly for the first time.
I think
like the main quest. Though.
I remember what stopped me playing was I got turned into a vampire by accident, and then just went, fuck this.
Oh, you can catch vampirism.
Yeah.
Let me see now. Show me the DLC. There's people listening to this going, "It's obviously this, Connor. How could you forget?"
I think there's. Oh yeah, but sorry, no, we're talking about it.
It's Hearthfire.
Hearthfire. Oh yeah.
Vanguard, Hearthfire, and Dragonborn. Hearthfire, yes. So that DLC, although it wasn't perfect, that was a really cool thing because what you did is you get a plot of land and you have to actually get the wood and nails and stone and clay and all that, and then you're like, I'm gonna build a little house, and at first it's just a shack. But then it's like, oh, now I can add this little wing, and in the wing there's a trophy room for all my armors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different sites you can pick to put down that, or also even in the main game without the DLC, you can buy different homes in every major city in Skyrim. And I loved buying because if you buy one of them, you can also buy furnishings for that room, and then it just it kind of was nice because then the city that you're in kind of becomes your home base.
Yeah.
And there's something familiar and comforting about that. I always did the Breeze home in Whiterun, which is the first kind of town you visit. It's the smallest, but it's also like it's cozy and it's really nice. And from a strictly mechanical perspective, it's the shortest possible walking distance from where your chests are located in the house versus when you get to the front door. So if it's the smallest structure, it takes you the least amount of time to run in, go to your chest, get some items, and run back out again.
You're optimizing your interior design.
Oh yeah, I was a pro Skyrim player. But yeah, I mean, I love that. And I like when players do that as well. Like, you see like in Critical Role, they had campaign 1, they had Greyskull Keep, a keep built in the major city, and then that became their home city.
Campaign 2, they had the Slayer's Cake, and they had another organization that I can't remember right now.
Where was their home base there? Did they have a home base in campaign 2?
Oh no, sorry, that's not campaign 2. That's just late campaign 1. My apologies. That's late campaign 1 because that was when
it was.
That was after when Tarion came along.
Oh, but that was actually Whitestone as well, and they actually like ended up having, they had a business, they had the Slayer's Cake in Whitestone, and then they had Percy was obviously a lord, but he installed them in like positions of like nobility and whatever around town, and then they built up the town and did all this stuff. And I mean, like, it's nice that you have a place that you can kind of call home, and like Temurai has kind of become that for you guys now because you have a business that operates out of there. You have a regular bar that you've gone to frequently, the low end place.
Whose barman we hired.
Whose barman you hired to be your estate manager for the guild hall. But yeah, it's just nice. I don't know. It's something comforting about it that because obviously the typical adventurer beat is we travel from town to town, taking jobs, killing monsters, and all that. But there's something very, I don't even know the word for it. There's just something very nice about players, instead of just flitting from town to town and doing this, they've actually, to say that they've grabbed onto a part of the world and said, we're going to build our house here, or we're going to build our guild hall here, and this is where we live, and becoming familiar and on first name basis with all the different characters in town, and they know that, okay, I want to go and I want to get some bullets. I'm going to go to Locke. Locke is the guy that does all the guns in town. I'll go to Locke. I want to get some. I want to go, I don't know, and get some more pet stuff, or buy another pet or something like that. I want to go to Breeder's Boutique because I know that's the pet store in this town because I'm now familiar with it. And it's a kind of, it's wholesome. It's nice to know that players have kind of grabbed onto a part of the world and said, yes, this is mine. Yeah. I like this. I'm going to stay here. While still exploring and adventuring elsewhere and stuff. But I mean, like, it's nice to be able to end a mission, come back home, and even though it's all in our heads and it's all make-believe, the idea of saying my character grabs a couple of drinks from the kitchen, which they own, walks up and goes to bed. And it's like, it's nice to know that you're in your own room.
Yeah.
Or to be able to say, my room looks like this in the guild hall. It has this on the wall and all this other stuff. Posters of the latest mage boy bands.
I wanted to do this last game, but I didn't end up doing it. It's like, I want to have like, I might end up doing it for Lug this game, but I want to have like a Tony Stark room where like we're all sitting in the guild and they're like, okay, someone's hired like Spectre team. We are all the big guns need to come out. What are they sending us after? Okay, so this is the creature we're sending us after. Okay, ice damage, grant. And like he walks into a room and there's like ice resistant suit of armor here, fire resistant suit of armor here. Like just I'm just like literally doing a Tony Stark and just walk in and be like, red dragon today. Okay, cool. And like take their fire resistant plate out or something.
Yeah.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah, I honestly, it's a cool, like I said, it's uncharted waters for me. I haven't done a guild. I had players running a proper organization, and there's some great rules for it in Xanathar's, and I think there's some rules in the Player's Handbook and DMG as well for running a business, which is nice.
There's even rules for group patrons now as well, if you want to make if you like, because ours is obviously a blood hunter or a blood hunter / monster slayer guild, but like if Aerith was like a pact to the profane soul. Order of the Profane Soul Blood Hunter, where he's basically like a warlock blood hunter. Like we could have filtered that into like a group patron as well, and have like people joining the guild be like swearing to the patron, and like we've just like a guild of warlocks.
That's actually a very good thing. I should definitely look up the group patron options, because technically you do have Lady Vivienne, who is your sponsor. She has basically funded and fronted a lot of the money for the guild. With the promise that it will, make people safer and stuff like that. So I should actually definitely look at the group patron options and see if anything they might factor in with regards to her and the way the guild works and stuff like that.
I took the wrong meaning of the word patron from that.
What do you mean?
I took that as warlock patron rather than financial patron.
Oh, I mean, but I think it works both ways. I think there's actually like it can be an otherworldly being that you're all tied to, or it can literally be that I think there's rules there for your patron being like a military commander that you all report to, or that you're all part of a guild and you all report to this one person in the guild. So I think there's a few different ones. I'll have to look through it. That might be a good idea for a future episode, actually. Talking about group patrons.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, there's a bunch of other ones that you can go to as well. I know Wabu spent a ton of time in the fighting pits. He literally earned about 1,500 gold over the course of 4 months. And that was conservative. He had a few weeks that he came away with only 50 gold here and less, So he actually had a couple of bad weeks, and he still came away with about 1,500 gold over the course of 4 months, just in the fighting pits. If I had one criticism of the ones we've used so far, the standard work one, there is one there that you can do gambling, you can do crime. What's it now? You can do gambling, you can commit a crime, which is nice, and actually has some.
The rules for that are fun.
They're so brilliant. So you make a series. I think you make a series of checks, or a couple of different checks. But then the DC is 10, 15, 20, 25. With the robbery that you're trying to commit, the prize is different, and it goes 50, 100, 200, or 1,000 gold pieces of a robbery. Like it could be very fun if there's any thieves in your party or anything like that. Might want to do like a heist in their downtime.
Ocean's 11
and like stuff. It's like you're I don't know, you're reading the town criers going by. It's like, town bank robbed at gunpoint, all the money's gone, gold is gone, and then your rogue is there in the corner with a ton of new rings and some sunglasses on. He's like, I don't know anything about that. No ideas. my one criticism of these, religious service is there, research, crafting magical items, and selling magical items is on that as well, which I think is a good mechanic. So that like, there's a couple of checks involved with trying to get the best price possible if you have a magic item you no longer want. There's also one there for buying magic items. Like I don't want players buying magic items off the shelf, so to speak, if they are. But I mean that's kind of the thing of the DM. I will often just write out a short list of magic items that a place would have. They have all the standard consumable stuff like potions and all that, but like a shop isn't going to have a full shelf's worth of belts of fire giant strength. They might have one, and they have a small collection of very premium items. But if a player, the way I kind of see it is, DM can write whatever list they want to put in front of the characters. But if a character is looking for a very specific magic item, they can go, look, I want this. I read the DMG. I saw this magic item. I'd really like it for my character. I would say, cool, definitely. Let's look at the buying a magic item table, and you can spend the money on trying to find it, and you can make a couple of rolls and whatever, and then that's kind of the trade-off in that you get to pick the magic item, but you have to make the subsequent rolls and pay the money to find it, stuff like that.
Honestly, if you had the proficiency, I would just make it.
Oh, you can just make it as well. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
There's also
maybe I suppose that's only if you don't have the proficiency then, because yeah.
But even so, you could just find someone to make it for you as well.
Stop undermining me, Martin. So my one criticism here, and I only noticed it because one of the players, Arkham, Dan is the player, Arkham is the character. Arkham did some standard work. He's, I guess, going to earn a bit of cash on the side. He's not someone who can go to the fighting pits. He's very frail and doesn't have much. He is very frail.
No, I was just laughing at the idea of Arkham in the fighting pit.
The bell wouldn't even have rung and he'd already be unconscious.
It'd be like sending Gollum to fight the Uruk-hai instead of Aragorn.
Pretty much, yeah. So the standard work things, most of the rules are fine. The amount of money you earn is pretty kind of criminal. That like, why would you? I just think like, because like the way I did it up originally based on the rules that Dan made, right? And honestly, like I said, over for the fighting pits, Wabu can earn either nothing if he fails all 3 checks, or if he gets 1, 2, or 3 checks successful, he'll earn either 50, 100, or 200 gold, right? Which is like a nice chunk of money for a week's worth of work, depending on how you roll. For like a week's worth of work, like, and even a very high roll, you'll earn what is a comfortable lifestyle based on the lifestyle tables and stuff like that, plus 25. Which honestly comes out to it. I forget. I'll have to look again. It's very little, whatever the comfortable lifestyle is. It's like a gold or 2. So he was coming out with like 26, 27 gold a week. And I'm like, for the same amount of time that another player is putting in, you should earn something comparable to it. And like, we're not going to get into how the economy in D&D makes no sense, because it doesn't. But because I know that, like, I guess the idea is that it's high risk, high reward when you're in a fighting pit and stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, you should also be able to, because it's also like, with the fighting pit, you can actually make enemies. So you can roll on certain tables, and you might make a rival, or you might make an enemy, and there's complications that go along with all the different downtime activities.
Which is great, by the way, so that your downtime doesn't just end in downtime; it follows you into the actual campaign.
That's the thing, yeah, and it could be something very simple, and it could be something, or it could, like, some of them are good as well. Like, here's one of them for the work thing. A co-worker with ties to an important family in town takes a dislike to you. A difficult customer or a fight with a co-worker reduces the wages you earn by 1 category. Your employer's financial difficulties result in you not getting paid.
Oh god!
For that whole week.
That's rough.
It'd be pretty. It's pretty insane. But I mean, like, so I think the complications are cool. I just feel like the numbers need to be tweaked on it. I basically did a thing. I think I multiplied it by 10, but then I also came up with my own like dice that I would roll. So it's like 2d6 times 10 or 2d6 times 5 gold, and then maximum you can end up with slightly more. I think you can get a maximum like 180 or 185 gold if you're a work week, with the figures I worked out. but then it's less than what a pit fighter will earn, which is potentially 200. But that's because pit fighters can also potentially earn nothing, whereas someone who works will definitely earn some gold. Even if you roll very poorly, you'll still walk away with 30, 40 gold, something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my only real criticism of them. Other than that, I really, really, really love the downtime rules.
Yeah.
I just wish the regular work, the regular people need work as well. It can't all be adventurers and pit fighters and crafting magic items.
What
and the
we're
like.
saying is, rise up, my friends, overthrow.
Yes, comrades.
One thing I want to just give a quick shout out to as well, because I don't think we mentioned it. You can also make a new spell during downtime if you are a
Yes.
spellcaster. I know. Technically, I believe that is limited to wizards, but I just in my game anyway. I went, no, for anyone whose magic can do it. Screw it. So like my sorcerer cat made a new spell. When my sorcerer found out, my druid immediately was like, "Wait, we can make spells," and I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I did not know this." I was like, "Next downtime, I'm coming to you."
So you actually mentioned this before. So what spell actually ended? Because this hasn't happened in our game. This has happened in your own game. So what actually spell got crafted?
So
or more devised?
Yeah. So it was my sorcerer Morrigan, who is a draconic lineage sorcerer, specifically blue draconic lineage. So she's specialized in like lightning based attacks and stuff like that. So she made and I just realized I misspelled the title. Jesus Christ! But it's Morrigan's Galvanic Manacles. It's a fourth level evocation. Fourth level evocation spell. Where basically she stamps her foot and like from the ground these like 3 strands of like electrified arcane chain like burst out, or like sometimes they like actually burst out of her as well. Sort of like damn, there's a character, I can't remember what character does that. You wouldn't get the reference, damn it. Sort of like Naruto's man. But yeah, she.
I wouldn't get the reference. I think there's. It's actually, if you're talking about that, there's a character, the puppet guy, has some similar things where he can launch like these arms out of in Naruto.
Yeah.
He's a member of the
Sandro.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but she shoots out these 3 strands of like magical electrified chain, and they like will seek out her 3 targets. It's any up to 3 creatures within 60 feet. They have to make a dex save, and then if they fail, they take 66 lightning damage and they're stunned until the start of the caster's next turn.
Nice.
It's a spell attack roll then. It's a dexterity save for all of them. But if they make the save, then half the damage and no stun. But it's cool if they fail. It's like I always narrate it like if they fail the save, that like the chain just like rockets out towards them, and if they fail the save, it's like it latches onto them and like gets magnetized and loops around their neck and locks tight and like holds them there, and it's like not like a strangulation, but like it's almost like it being tased, where they're just like locked into position constantly.
Your whole body tenses up as a result. Yeah.
But it's stuns are
it's like having 3 taser guns just pop off on 3 different
pretty
people.
much exactly. But it's like these like electric chains, and it goes gets an extra d6 of damage for every spell slot above 4th.
Above 4th, yeah. 5th and higher, yeah. It's really cool. I mean, like, and I like that because it's obviously a lot of spells we have in the game already have like a particular person's name attached to them.
Yeah.
Those are characters that like Gary Gygax and a bunch of other old school makers of the game and stuff like that. They're characters they played, and that's why the spells are named as such, because they're named for the actual characters they were made for. So the fact that she included her own name onto the spell, cool.
Just for flavor, I included. I just like the idea of it, that there's a material cost for it, and it's you need to have it's a link of broken chain. Is the material?
I like that. Yeah.
I just like that just because it seems cool, and it's like such a wizard thing to carry. It's like it's like the fireball is like guano and sulfur.
Yeah, black guano and sulfur.
Yeah. So like for me, I was like, we'll do something cool like that. So like the chains are like, you need like a shard of broken chain to be able to cast it. Like that's the focus. You like grip onto it as you cast a spell, and that's what like creates the spectral chains. Yeah,
that's really fun. That's definitely something that's really, really cool. It's one of the ones. It's not listed here in Xanathar's, I don't think. Is it?
I might be under scribing a spell scroll. No, do you know what I did? I think I used the rules for scribing a spell scroll in place of the rules for creating the spell.
There is rules for designing spells in the back of the DMG in the DM's workshop section, I believe.
Yeah. Oh no! So what I did was I used the spell scroll rules for deciding on time and cost.
Right. Because
because I was like, okay, so it at its base level, it's a 4th level spell. So I said, what we'll do is for time and for cast, I said we'll treat that like you're scribing a 4th level spell scroll essentially.
Nice.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Very. Yeah, I do like that. I would like to see maybe that expanded into the rules officially at some later point.
You know what? Would not be surprised if that was in Strixhaven.
Oh, actually, do you know what? With the way that they did the whole custom subclass things, I can go with multiple classes, or they were originally doing that.
Yeah, there you
go. It would definitely seem like they're obviously it's going to be very magic focused. But what I mean is, it would seem like they're going for maybe some customization on that. If that's a recurring theme, they they'll definitely have new spells, if not a way to customize spells for people, or just play a sorcerer and take the meta magic that lets you swap damage on anything, so you can have fireballs with acid.
That's so, or like a necrotic fireballs with a force ball. That would be sick. Oh, that'd be so cool because you wouldn't see it. It would just be like a completely see-through, like transparent ball that just appeared.
Shockwave.
Yeah, it would. It's basically a bomb. Sorry, that's just a bomb.
That's just a bomb.
a force ball. Yeah, force ball. Please, sir, can you step out of the line? We're going to need to take you into this room.
We have to search you for force balls.
Oh god. Jesus, they're definitely pulling out the glove for that.
Oh. But Martin.
Yes, Connor.
On that note, that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah. Oh god, sorry, I'm still dealing with the force ball. That was a lot of fun, man. I like, particularly because it's something that we've both just done, and like I didn't even get around to, but like my guys,
fresh in the mind.
Yeah, my guys have a lot of fun with the guys I run have a lot of fun with their downtime as well, and making mad stuff and like coming up with that and making the sheets for that. I'm sure the same as for you is like one of the very many pleasures of being a DM is you get to just make cool stuff all the time.
Yeah, it's one of the ones I would definitely recommend for DMs, because it's not like it's a core part of the game. Personally, I think I think it's important now, having done it. I obviously played the entire first campaign never having used it, but now I look at it and I'm like, that's a very valuable part. I don't think I'll be able to go without going forward. So yeah, I mean, like, I would definitely recommend it if you haven't used it. Even for players who are maybe more about just killing monsters and combat and looting, maybe try and just give them a taste of it. Because honestly, when you get to see the input you have, and even if a player is like, I just want to roll dice, kill things and all that kind of stuff, if you tell them that with downtime, they could craft a sword that has blue flames coming off it or something like that, that might sway them towards the idea of downtime being pretty cool, and let them have a bit more input themselves on the game. So,
hell yeah.
If you have any questions you'd like us to ask, stories you'd like us to share, or topics you'd like us to cover, please tweet us at MicFlayers on Twitter. It's on the lower screen. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor. There's a couple others.
Breaker and Radio Public.
Breaker. I have it there. It's on the lower line. Yes, Breaker and Radio Republic. Martin, where can people reach you on the internet?
Most often can be found here on the Micflayers podcast. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at it's over, which will be in just below my cam here. You can also find me a lot of the time on the Micflayers Twitter account. You usually tell when I'm on if there's any tweets going out about like 3-4 a.m. Irish time. Yeah, it's me. It's definitely me. But yeah, other than that, mainly you can find me right here on the Micflayers podcast every Friday, 6 p.m. Irish time. What about you, Connor? Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZeroPointConor, 1N. Very important.
I forgot it this week. God damn it, sorry.
I was watching you. I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry, I'm tired.
And also every Friday here on the Micflayers podcast at 6 p.m. Irish time. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that episode on downtime. We might revisit this at a later point if we do any more interesting downtime activities in the coming months. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.